Eason.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to briefly sharing my business report, which is comparing how low-cost carrier, which is abbreviated in LCCs, and the full-service carriers, also known as the traditional airlines that provide a set of full services, and how they generate profits before, during, and after the pandemic. But due to the time constriction, I have only put on the data that is pre-pandemic and during pandemic, and I have did some analysis and do some literature review to them. And first, I will briefly start with the introduction of the airline industry background. So before the deregulation of the airline association in Europe and the International Aeronautical Association, they strictly restrict the price, the route, and the capacities in the European airline industry. And after the deregulation, the LCC began to boom and have a rapid development in Europe. And we can see that there is two figures I have found and borrowed. I just put it there, and it shows the market share of the LCCs from in two span. And the first one is from 1998 to 2018. We can see that it only accounts for 1.6% when it's in 1998, but with the deregulation, the market share of the low-cost carrier have increased to 30.3 in 2028, which is a very immense increase. And on the other hand, if we look at the market share of low-cost carriers during the pandemic, we can see that there is a large rate fluctuation, and the bottom of the market share is 4.9%, which is the outbreak of the COVID around in Europe, yeah. And so, because I was inspired by a figure on the textbook I have read, I am interested about why some LCCs have higher return on assets than full-service carriers, and I'm just curious about why the textbook said it is more efficient when it comes to their financial performances. And so my aim is to find out, is it really the thing that LCC do perform better during the pandemic and before pandemic? So I will focus on qualitative research on this report. So the first strategy that LCCU is, and the most famous one, is the cost-saving strategy. So there are 7 listed cost-saving strategies that's most used by the LCCs, and I think the important ones are flying a single airplane type, because they could save the engineering cost, the training cost to the crew, and maybe the maintenance cost. And the second one is that relying on direct sales. It means that they sell their flight tickets directly to their customers, but rather by intermediaries like some brokers or some touristing institutions that help them sell their tickets and collect commissions from them. And And another one is that they keep the labor cost low, so which have great influences on the cost saving, their cost saving strategies. And another important thing that influenced the cost saving strategy of the LCCs is fleet planning. What is fleet planning? Is that whenever they have to compose their fleet, have to decide the composition of their fleet, they have to decide the type and the range they are going to establish for. For example, if they aim at, like most of the LCCs focus on short haul journey, so they have to decide on and between those short haul planes, and this may cause a lot of changes if they mistakenly bought the wrong type, the wrong model of the plane. And for example, like EasyJet operates only Airbus 320, and the advantage of this strategy is that it has effectiveness in engineering because they don't have to set their engineers to a lot of aeronautical manufacturer to learn about the technique, how to fix the variety of the planes. And the other is like the crew and the fuel, they can have savings on them as well. So let's move on to the next topic is the factors why LCCs perform less effective than FCS during the pandemic by statistics. And the first, I think, okay, I will just pick the important one. And I think the most important one is that since the market size of the full service carriers are larger than LCCs, so they have more elasticity to prepare for the shocks. And let's look at the graph here, and it says the research have designated key date, which is February 24th, and they compare the cumulative abnormal return on both LCCs and FSCs. And if we look at this graph, okay, so basically we can see that LCCs could not react to the accident more elastic. So my conclusion is that if we barely look at the financial ratio, like cash to asset ratio or return on asset ratio, we can find that we cannot decide. It seems not to be stringent enough to decide which business model of airline performs better. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, I think it's a very clear presentation. Now I would like to invite questions and comments or any thoughts.
Please.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's very structured and organized, and you make it really clear on your point and your conclusion. And I'm just very curious about what's your motivation on this topic. And do you frequently follow these news or some information about the industry? What is your motivation on this topic?
My motivation is because I'm very interested in airline industry, and but I didn't frequently focus on and follow the statistics of the airline industry, but I do read some news about, for example, for their strategies or selling strategies, like how if they for news, like if they open a new route to two new airports from A to B, I will just focus that type of news. But this kind of data is the first time I get in touch with. But before, I try to read some but that is not very related to the industry, but it is some handbook of the aeronautical industry. Yeah, that's like it.
Good.
Yes.
So I think I'd like to discuss your conclusion here. So I think you're trying to say that maybe we need to find new criteria to evaluate the cost efficiency of LCCs.
Basically, it is because the research have done here that suggested that because the listed LCCs are the ones with higher cost to asset cash to asset ratios, but after the research, after the experiment, the researchers find that they have calculated the abnormal returns, which is the exact return minus expected return, and this shows the capability of the airline that they have the ability to earn the abnormal, which means the excess returns of the investors' expectation. So it suggests that LCCs exactly cannot make as much as the investors' opinions. So in my conclusion, it says we have to find more strict ways to define the profitability of LCCs, not merely just on those traditional financial ratios like we use in the analysis of those accounting courses.
I see. I mean, to my knowledge, I think we know when we look at the cost of an airline company, we need to consider fuel, right? Usually fuel will occupy about 40 to 60% of its operation. Also, we have to consider maintenance and depreciation. I think that's also why maybe Warren Buffett never invested in airline company, right? Because he believes that most of the airline company are bad investment because they require huge maintenance. So I wonder how far can cost saving strategy work for LCCs, or maybe instead they want to improve their economic efficiency instead. They can maybe try to maximize the profit instead of trying to lower the cost, because there will be some fixed costs they can never lower.
To my knowledge, due to the time constraint, due to the time limits, I haven't do a thorough research on the cost saving strategy in detail. And in my opinion, I think that an answer to your question is we can focus. If they have no other ways to save their costs, they can conduct they can increase their aeroplane utilization, which means they can do some research on at what time, and they can arrange their schedule on the time which most passengers will take the plane, and cancel those flights on the time which is not at a peak, so they can save their fuel and the crew salaries and etc. Yeah, I think that's the way they can realize the cost saving strategy.
I mean, like offering more charter flights.
Yeah, more charter flights and cancel those flights which do not reach the threshold of the capacity.
Thank you. So any others? Other questions, comments? Yes. You guys will give comments on the presentation or the topic, or anything you would like to clarify. Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, then thank you very much for the presentation.